Creating fun custom sequins, bags, pillows, and t-shirts with infusible inks is super easy, and that's exactly what we're going to do today. Hey, I'm Sarah. Let's get crafting. Here I have a pencil pouch or cosmetic pouch that I picked up from Pro World. They have so many different sublimation blanks, and my kids love just having these on hand because they make great gifts for their friends, and they have so much fun making these. This is an infusible ink transfer sheet that I'll be using today from Cricut. First thing you're going to want to do is measure your pouch. Now, with what I'm doing today, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger than the actual pouch so that I have enough hanging over the edges to hopefully cover the entire top surface here. So I'm going to measure this and make it about a 9 by 6. Heading over to Cricut Design Space, I'm going to grab a rectangle shape from the left-hand shapes panel, and moving this down a little farther here where I can work with it better, I'm going up to the top panel here to unlock this width and height measuring bar so that I can change my size. So I'll put in my 9 by 6 and then be sure to lock it again so your shape doesn't shift around and change as you move it. Next, we're going to go down and grab the text from the left panel and put in my daughter's name because this is going to be for her. And after I have that, I'm going to come up here to the font and select one out of my bookmarked fonts. And I'll be choosing Dried Olives today. This one I got off of Creative Fabrica. They have so many fonts and graphics that I just love all their stuff from there. Now, changing this so I can see it better to a different color, I'm going to put it on here and drag it and make it as big as I think I would like it. Now, remembering that the size was bigger than what I actually needed, I'm going to grab both of these and go up to Align and hit Center. Then what we're going to do is delete this lily part out of the middle. So typically what I would do is go down here and hit the slice button. But what that leaves you with is all these extra pieces that you have to remove and delete so that all I have left is this outline piece in the middle here. But after, I'm going to undo this and show you what Cricut has done recently that makes this all so much easier. Again, grabbing both of these and aligning it to the center. And as they're both still highlighted, I'm going to come down here to the far right and hit the combine and subtract. And what that's going to do is just take that whole middle word out, and I don't have to mess around with moving things and deleting things. And now it's just one piece. So this just works a lot easier for me. If you prefer to use slice, go ahead and do that. They both work exactly the same. It just eliminates some of the extra steps with slice. Now we're going to come up here and hit Make It. And once it's over here on the mat, you need to mirror this image because the infusible inks work the same as the iron-on or heat transfer, and you want that reversed. Then we're going to hit Continue. And then I'm going to be grabbing the infusible ink transfer sheet option here, and I just leave it on the default pressure. I find that this works great with their transfer sheets. Then taking my very sticky mat, which I find works the best with these to really hold it down because Cricut, they like to make these in rolls, which kind of drives me nuts, but it is what it is. And they get really wrinkly and creases are kind of a problem, but when it's super sticky, it holds it down okay. Using my little hack here, I like to put my mat under the machine so that my material doesn't stick to the mat until I'm ready for it to. This stuff is a little stiff, so it doesn't maybe bend as well as vinyl would when doing this, but hold it in place the best you can and then slide your mat out as you put that transfer sheet down. You want the colored side up because, again, we're cutting this in a mirrored image. And then you flip it over so the color is facing down on the pouch, and you'll see what I mean as we keep going here. fixing a little bit of this on my mat. We're going to smooth this out, and as you noticed, maybe I put that clear top part of my mat back on so I could just press this down. You really don't want to touch it too much because you can just kind of wear off some of the ink. But now we are ready to go ahead and cut this out. If you used this Cricut Infusible ink before, it's pretty easy to work with, but the fact that it comes all rolled up really kind of bothers me. I'm tempted to get some other brands off of Amazon and see how they compare, but if they come in flat sheets and not rolled up. What do you think? Let me know. Should I get a few different brands to try and compare and see how they work? Compared to Cricut, I'm always up for a good test. So now we're going to take this out, and I always like to flip my mat over and peel the mat away from whatever I'm cutting. Especially if it's paper or cardstock, it just helps prevent it from creasing or getting curled a little bit. So go ahead and flip it over and carefully peel this off of your transfer sheet. Then I'm going to cut the excess off because I save all my scraps. It doesn't matter how little they are, I always just put my scraps in a separate little basket and save them for little projects when I just need little tiny pieces of something. So I'm going to cut this off of here. And then with the infusible inks, you're not really weeding this out. You need to kind of roll it and crack it and peel the pieces out that you don't want. Now typically I would be peeling everything away from the letters, but because I want to cover the entire pouch, I'm going to be peeling the letters out so that I have the big piece around the outside. If you are newer to infusible ink, or maybe you haven't even tried it yet, I will link another video down below where I go more in detail on what this is and how to use it and what you can use it on. So go ahead and grab that after this is finished, and be sure to like the video and subscribe if you haven't so that you don't miss out on any of the upcoming tutorials when I use this on other products. Now that we have all those letters out, we are ready to put this on the pouch. But first you're going to want to take the pouch or whatever you're using this on and make sure all these little sequin pieces are flipped down to the white part. I know this might be tedious, but there are always a few strays that want to be stubborn and not flip with everyone else, but take the time to go and turn those all back down because you need the white part of this facing up because the infusible ink will not stick to that shiny side. So go ahead and take the time and make those all to the white side. My Easy Press 2 is set to 400 degrees for 55 seconds. I will go ahead and grab the mat that I need to put on the bottom here. And then I always layer a piece of butcher paper on top of that because sometimes when you're doing projects with infusible ink, it can get over onto the mat and we don't want that. So now layering the different ways here, typically I would take some cardstock and like I'm doing here, put it in between the project, like if it's a t-shirt or something. But this probably wasn't necessary. This material is pretty thick, but I'm going to do it anyways. Then once that is set, I will take the press and just heat this for a few seconds. I like to get out as much of the moisture as possible when using the infusible inks. So we're just going to do that, and then it will be time to take the infusible ink transfer paper sheet and place it color side down onto our bag. Now the backing of these transfer sheets is sticky, so this will hold down just fine with that. If it's smaller pieces or it seems like it's going to be popping up, I would use a heat safe tape, but this one seems to work just fine. And watching out for this velvet piece on the top that's covering up the zipper area. I'm just laying this as close to that as possible and then covering it one more time with another piece of butcher paper. Taking my heat press, I'm going to press this as hard as I possibly can. I don't know if it's all heat presses or just this one in particular, but it doesn't seem to have even heat all the way through the middle. So if it's a project that says light to medium pressure, I still just press it down as hard as I possibly can to get that heat even all the way through. When removing the heat press, you want to lift straight up and try not to move around all that paper underneath because you can get what's called a ghosting effect. But as you can see here, this has already started lifting, and this turned out pretty well. There are some spots up at the top where it maybe didn't transfer the ink as well, but as you can see down here on the bottom on that butcher paper, the ink went over, which is why I had my mat covered. But here's where I was talking about. It didn't get there quite up in the corners, but that's okay because a lot of times when the sequence is flipped, it's not all flipped at the same time. But you can see here most of that ink transferred pretty well. There's some spots towards the top where that velvet strip got in the way a little bit and I maybe wasn't pressing it flat behind underneath that. But otherwise, I think this turned out pretty well. I think my daughter's gonna like this and she can do some more on the back side of this as well. So turning all these pieces back to the rose gold side, you can see that it has been made into something on the other side through this when you hold it a certain way, but not all the time. So that is it for this project. Have you tried any of this on sequins yet? If not, I think you should. It is a lot of fun and it's super easy.